The Associated Press reported last month that the Trump administration wants to collect DNA samples from asylum seekers and other migrants detained by immigration officials. That's a relatively small proposed change to immigration law, according to Megan Kludt, partner and attorney at Curran, Berger Kludt Immigration Law. Kludt told me that over the past 15 years, she's seen steady increases in detentions and a tougher stance on immigration, first under President Barack Obama, and now even more so under President Donald Trump.
Just to clarify, there was a law, the DNA Fingerprint Act of 2005, that mandated that anyone in federal custody gets their DNA tested as well as fingerprinting. So there is an exception. There's an exception if the Department of Homeland Security, in consultation with the Attorney General, decides that there just aren't enough resources to do it. Then they can say, okay, we won't do it because there aren't enough resources. So what happened was under Obama, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security said, yeah, we really don't have enough resources, and that's why it was Janet Napolitano, and so it didn't happen. So they were not collecting DNA evidence. So the change they are proposing to the regulation is to strike that line, that there is this exemption. And there's still an exemption with the Attorney General, but now only the Attorney General can approve the exemption. So it's actually very technical, and it's not a huge change, but it is, of course, the fact that they're doing it now in the context of everything else that's going on at the border. It's clearly just another way to make things more difficult. So yes, I wouldn't say it's really illegal and there's not that much to do about it, but it's all part of the same effort to make things harder.
So essentially it's kind of dusting off a law that was passed but wasn't really, exactly. It was just kind of floundering, it was sitting there,
exactly.
Not being.
It was sitting there, it wasn't being done, and they're basically saying two reasons. One, like DNA collection is much easier now, so technology has advanced is one of their arguments, but they're also making this argument that, well, we don't really see why there's a difference between criminal detainees and immigration detainees. They're essentially the same thing. They're criminals too. So in their proposed rule change, that's one of the reasons that they give, and that part is really the part that's most difficult to swallow, because there really is a big difference. And they're saying, well, now we're prosecuting a lot of these migrants that are entering illegally. But they haven't prosecuted them yet in a lot of cases. So these people have not been convicted of any crimes, and they're still collecting all of their DNA. And part of their rationale is that, well, we know they're criminals anyway. So that part of the way the proposed regulation change is written is problematic for me. The other part about it being easier from a technical perspective, yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is much easier now to collect this DNA. But I mean, it is going to cost a lot of money. I think I read maybe $13 million or something like that, and to be able to do this, I think it will be phased in. But the idea now is everybody, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people will now have their DNA collected.
And for its part, the Deputy Attorney General, Jeff Rosen, said this in a statement from the Department of Justice about this proposed change. The proposed rule change would help to save lives and bring criminals to justice by restoring the authority of the Attorney General to authorize and direct the collection of DNA from non-United States persons detained at the border and the interior by DHS, with the ultimate goal of reducing victimization of innocent citizens. What do you think about that last part that the Deputy Attorney General is saying here, that innocent people are being victimized?
Well, that's the problem with it. And you know, a lot of studies have shown that immigrants are not dangerous. This is not a dangerous population. In fact, it's one of the most vulnerable populations, and they're coming in and they have no choice about it, and this is something very private that's taken from them. And that is what I have the hardest time with. Like, yes, they have a legal argument that this is a law from years ago, it was under Bush, it's been around forever, so it's a very technical change. But on the other hand, this is clearly part of this demonization of these innocent migrants who are coming in who don't have criminal records. I mean, I work with a lot of these people through the nonprofit work I do, and vast majority are innocent women, children, men who are fleeing violence and are scared for their lives and have absolutely no criminal record. So, you know, that's who we're talking about. And then to frame it as we're doing this to protect people from criminals, that's where I find it problematic.
And there's several separate issues going on. As you mentioned, you do a lot of pro bono work on the border. Rapid DNA testing has come up too, separate from this issue. What's going on with that?
So that is something they started, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but in the spring they started the pilot program to do rapid DNA testing. So that, the way they're framing it is this is really about confirming the relationship between a parent and a child. They say, okay, this person's coming in with their child. We want to confirm it really is their child so we can stop crimes and kidnapping and things like that. And so that's problematic for a couple of reasons. One, it just is really narrowing the relationship between parent and child, because under the immigration law, someone doesn't have to be your biological child to be your child. There could be an adopted child, there could be a stepchild. So that's very...
Someone you have legal guardianship of in your native state.
Right,
yeah.
There's a lot of different relationships like that. And also we're just not sure about the accuracy of these programs. We've heard about them used in other countries and they haven't been entirely accurate. So they did a request for proposals over the summer to expand this on a very wide scale. And I think there's just a lot of risks inherent in it, and we should really understand what the software is and what's going on, and it shouldn't be rushed. And there needs to be a lot of provisions for, there's a lot of ways that people can have relationships that aren't necessarily this biological match.
What about the work that you're doing on the border? You're working with people who are trying to get their cases heard. We've heard a lot about the backlog in cases for detainees. What are you seeing on the border?
The border is a mess right now. It's really a atrocious situation. It's bad. The places I've been working with the most is I work with an organization called Raíces, which is in the San Antonio area, in the Curran's detention facility. And we were working as of August and maybe the beginning of September with a very large population, over 1,000. It was all single women. And they were all asylum seekers. They were all fleeing hardship. And we were trying to prepare them for bond hearings because every one of them had a right to see an immigration judge to figure out if they could get released. So at this point, they were detained for a couple of months already. And what we saw, and we're seeing this in other facilities in other areas too, is all of a sudden within a week, with hundreds of women scheduled for their hearings, they got moved. So the whole facility was emptied out, and they moved all the women to another facility in Louisiana, some in Louisiana and some in Mississippi. What we're actually starting to hear is, for example, in Louisiana, there was recently I think it was a court case that caused them to revise a lot of their criminal justice system, and a lot of people were ended up released from their criminal jails. And what they've done now is they've signed contracts with ICE to fill those spaces. So all of a sudden, I've heard there may be like 13 to 15 new facilities that were being used to, so it was actually kind of a win for criminal rights in Louisiana, but they have all this extra space. So they're signing these contracts with ICE, and then they need to fill them. So
that's sort of the reasoning they gave for the moving?
We don't really know. Everything's opaque. We just don't understand what's happening. But it seems sometimes that people get moved around quickly, and just as you're getting legal resources wrapped around an institution, they move everybody. So now,
what happened to that bond hearing? You're close.
So they get canceled. So that's what happened. So if a detainee is moved from Texas to Louisiana, the hearing that they're going to have, the jurisdiction is wherever they are physically located. So essentially, ICE can keep somebody from ever having a hearing by moving them from place to place to place.
So then, okay, so you're maybe a day out from your hearing. You've already waited 2 or 3 months, like you said.
Exactly.
Now you go back to square one?
Yep, exactly. So we had a lot of women that we saw that were ready. They had hearings coming up in the next week, and they were canceled. So you called the hotline, and there was no hearing scheduled, and they were moved to Louisiana, and most of them have not been scheduled. Actually, I don't think any of them have been scheduled for hearings yet. Now, these people have to express their fear of going back to their home country. A lot of them have been sexually assaulted. Horrific things have happened to them, very, very difficult to talk about. And they can't have access to counsel in that kind of situation. Now, immigrants do have a right to, they don't have a right to appointed counsel, but they have a right to counsel if they can afford it. And so you have a lot of pro bono attorneys willing to do it. But it takes a long time to gather resources, like, say, in El Paso, where we've been working also, to get enough attorneys together and a network of people like us in Massachusetts and other states to help. A few attorneys represent over 1,000 immigrants. And so you get all those resources together and try to help them, try to give them some sort of representation, and then they get moved to some place where there's nobody. So it's impossible to prepare for a case like that. And your life depends on it. And you need counsel to help you do it. And attorneys have stepped up to try to help with this, but the way ICE is treating them has made it just impossible. Even if they stayed in one facility, it would be impossible for a small group of free attorneys to represent thousands. But if you keep moving them, this cup game of we can't even find them, because now everybody's scattered. You have all these resources. We've spent 6 months, maybe 8 months now, building a whole infrastructure in El Paso to work with the thousands of detainees there. and supporters here in Massachusetts, and different networks we've built up to help them. And now everything's moved to Louisiana, where there is no infrastructure. So now everybody's scrambling again. What do we have in Louisiana? And different organizations are there and trying to work together. And it's very, very difficult. It takes months to establish this. Wow. So these people who had assistance that we worked hard to get them have lost it all now. And a lot of it has to do with, it's hard for us to know. Do they do it because they want to create that exact scenario where they lose this access to counsel? Or are they doing it because they just have this bed space and they have these deals, these contracts? A lot of these are privately run facilities. So there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of wheeling and dealing as far as like where the detainees are going to sit, because it's a lot of money per head for a detainee, hundreds of dollars a day.